Highly successful individuals are always focused on what's next, but they often don't take time to reflect on their journey and how far they've come. I'm Craig Heatherly, host of the Path Less Traveled podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary leaders. Their success rarely follows a straight path, and that's what makes their story so remarkable. Now let's dive into this week's episode after a brief message from our sponsors. Looking for top talent in tech or professional fields? Avero Talent connects businesses with exceptional candidates, specializing in tailored recruiting solutions that match the right skills to your team's needs. Whether building a team or searching for a tough-to-fill position, Avero Talent delivers the expertise you need to hire smarter, faster, and with more confidence. Let us help you find your next star employee.
Success changes the game. Your business is growing. New opportunities, ambitious goals, greater impact. But growth brings complexity. More people to lead, more moving parts, less time and space to think and connect. And when leaders feel that strain, teams do too. At Cressy Leadership, we help leaders navigate those challenges. Through individual coaching, group training, and our Leadership Academy, we build the skills and strengthen the connections that make growth sustainable, helping teams communicate openly, tackle challenges together, and stay aligned on what matters most. Cressy Leadership. Envision what's possible.
Welcome to the Path Less Traveled podcast. This week we feature the founder and executive director of Transformation Ministries, Kory Lantz. Kory, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Craig.
I can't wait for listeners to hear the story of what's happening at Transformation Ministries. It's one thing to donate to a not-for-profit. It's another thing to volunteer at a not-for-profit. Another thing to be a board member. I'm a board member of two strong not-for-profits in the community doing great work, but it's another level to start a not-for-profit. Mm-hmm. When you hear the word Transformation Ministries, the words, and then you think about the 17 years you guys have been doing this, reflect for a second. What comes to mind, man?
Yeah, it's in the name, transform lives. You know, that's what I think about. And I have a number of faces and names that come to mind over the past 17 years of lives that have been transformed. And some very quickly, and some after 16 or 17 years, you're finally starting to see, okay, they're getting it. And so we talk all the time around here about wanting our students and families to go from surviving to thriving. So a lot of our families come in absolute chaos, survival, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, maybe not thinking they're going to live till they're 18 or see this sort of birthday. And when you start to see a family start to take a deep breath and be able to settle into God's purpose in their life and to be able to give back to those around them and provide for their families, you start to see just incredible thriving. And that's what it's all about. So transform lives is what I think about when I think about our name and what we've been doing the past 17 years.
17 years. It's a lot of impact. Did you think that you guys would be where you're at today, 17 years ago? I mean, what was the vision of that?
I mean, I'm a visionary. I'm a big idea guy, I should say. So my wife and I moved to this neighborhood 17 years ago, just a couple of blocks away from here. We originally thought we'll be here a year or two, and then we'll go overseas and be missionaries of some sort. We actually wanted to be overseas. When we were in different cultures together, we kind of came alive. And so we thought we'll just be here a year or so. And then eventually, after about 2 years, it got real tough, but then there was this kind of defining moment of us saying, we're going to be here for the long haul. And some of our mentors were saying, in the urban context that have done this work, were saying, you can't even measure any impact until you're in year 15. So you start to see that generational impact. We're like, we're frustrated. We haven't seen something happen in 6 months. Like, the mindset shifted to this kind of long game approach. And now here we are in a 38,000 square foot building, just a few blocks away, 17 staffers, hundreds of kids, in the middle of a capital campaign for $8 million to raise money for an early learning center. Like, I never thought we would be here. So, and it still feels like we didn't grow fast. People, I think, when they're just kind of in and out, they're like, man, this thing just blew up. And it's actually, it felt like just small incremental steps for 17 years. And every once in a while I'll step back and be like, wow, this is pretty crazy. And then I'll kind of jump back into it and just take the next right step and just keep doing the work.
Yeah, Jim Collins wrote a book, Good to Great, and it's just those daily inputs, and then you have this flywheel, and people want to say, wow, it's overnight. No, it's not. It's a lot of just daily inputs.
Yeah.
And it's a grind. And I relate it to also college or just coaching in general. You have no idea the impact that you'll have on an individual until it could be decades down the road.
Yeah.
So Transformation Ministries, I walked in, I felt like I was coming to church with the music that was playing.
Yeah.
Tell me what you guys do here and just the mission behind Transformation Ministries.
We work with kindergarten through young adults and their families. So we are here to help a kid who's coming in with a lot of lack of resources, lack of opportunities. And we have 8 impact components that we've kind of created: education, life skills, employment opportunities, community, spiritual development, and more. We wrap them around with these kind of supports. And then we say, hey, you have the opportunity now to thrive. And some kids just need an opportunity to grab onto something, to see something in themselves, to see a vision for their life. And when they grab onto it, it's amazing. And it changes not only them, but their family, their community. So we talk a lot about going deeper over wider. We talk about multiplication more than addition. I truly believe that there will be thousands of lives that are impacted that I will never see, that names and faces I'll never know. But we're developing leaders here who are going back out to be difference makers, to be generation stoppers. And so that's what we do here. And at a high level, kids are here after school, and we invest deeply in them with one-on-one mentors. We provide jobs for them through Greater Impact, a couple of different micro businesses that we've created. But I think the thing that makes us uniquely different is the highly relational approach of having multiple adults per kid that are checking in, investing in on that kid. And so we talk about mentors, talk about father figures, mother figures in kids' lives. That's what we're providing. And kids that have experienced tremendous amounts of trauma, adverse childhood effects, there's a score or rating system there. You can see they're more likely, the higher their score, to get involved in destructive activity. There's also positive childhood effects, and some of those are about a positive adult, someone who sees them, someone who listens to them. And so I think that's what we do really well. So we have a lot of volunteers who are invested at a very high level and having their one kid that they're saying, I know them, I've been in their home, I'm going to their sporting events, I'm asking them questions, I'm holding them accountable, I'm cheering them on in their next steps. And so that right there has tremendous impact. So my job is to help our staff empower them to be highly relational, get the barriers, the obstacles out of the way for them to do their job, but then also for them to pour into our hundreds of volunteers who are unbelievable in what we're doing here.
You said deep, not wide. I want to go a little bit deeper then. Let's back up a few steps, because it's one thing to look at Transformation Ministries today in 2026. Yeah. It's another thing to go back to the idea of Transformation Ministries. Yeah. How long ago and when was it that you decided, let's do this, and talk us through what those first couple of years looked like?
Yeah.
A big thank you to Senior One Care for sponsoring today's episode. Founded in 2006 by Carl and Kyle Bossing, this family-owned business has provided compassionate in-home care for nearly 2 decades. If my family needed a caregiver, I'd call Kyle. With 6 Indiana locations, they give you the peace of mind while your loved ones receive the care they deserve. Learn more at senioronecare.com.
Yeah, the first year we moved into the neighborhood, and we just said we want to be great neighbors.
Okay.
And so obviously there's a tremendous faith component of how my wife and I operate. So we wanted to love people like Jesus loved people. We wanted to move into the neighborhood and dwell among the people, be a light. And so we started coaching at the local school here. We invested in the local church of 30, 40 people. We were walking around the neighborhood, and we started just connecting with kids and started some things where there was just lots of kids kind of coming and going, dropping in and out. And I would say we were investing in or having touch points with hundreds of kids. But we were seeing not a lot of traction, not a lot of growth. And so after year 1, we said, let's go deeper. And so we created this application process where kids could apply to be a part of a program called Iron Sharpens Iron. Okay. And the whole premise was, we are going to sharpen you. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to give you the 110%. And if you want that, then you will have a chance to be accepted into this program, we took 6 guys and 6 girls, 12 kids. We're with those kids 5 or 6 days a week for the next year. And that was when we started to see some change happen. So that was like, without even knowing it, we were developing a model of this is a deeper rather than wider approach. We still did some one-off events for those other kids and their friends, but it was the same 12 kids over and over that were coming to our house that we were investing in and helping and support. And then we grew it to 18 kids, then it went to 24, then it went to 32, and I was just slowly adding 6 to 8 kids a year.
Yeah.
And now we're at 90 kids. And still people say, man, you guys could have 500. It's like, absolutely.
Right.
And some organizations do that, and we cheer them on, and they have a great model for what they're doing. We have a pretty significant conviction that every student matters, and we will not grow in numbers of students until we can make sure every student has gotten the support that they need to thrive. So those first couple of years was highly relational. My wife and I thought we'll just probably have 20 kids that we invest in for 20 years, and we'll just graduate 1 or 2 out, bring 1 or 2 in. But then we started to see, God had a bigger vision for multiplication, bringing in other leaders, training them up to do the same thing that we're doing. And so that's why we started adding and growing more numbers, more teams. But that foundation of just seeing a kid, looking them in their eyes, knowing their name, really asking them how they're doing, following up with them, is still the foundation of everything that we do here. So yes, we have a bigger building. Yes, we have hundreds of volunteers, but if we lose that, then we've lost our way. That's mission drift for us. Mm-hmm. And so we have values and beliefs around that we're talking about daily with the staff to help us stay on our true north, on the target that God's given us here at Transformation.
And I want to talk about that because, not-for-profits can serve a variety of different areas, whether it be food pantries or elders or infants or youth or just name the thing. There's a lot but youth.
Yeah.
Children.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah. My wife and I love kids, just that God wired us that way. But also we look back at our lives, and I had a lot of mentors and people invest in me, youth pastors, coaches, teachers, parents that invested in me at critical moments. And I'm like, I want to be that for children and youth. My wife didn't have that so much. She looks back and felt like, man, where were those people at those pivotal moments? And so the positive and negative experiences of that grew our conviction to say, we want to be that for kids. So we are unashamedly a children and youth organization. That is our focus point. Everything we do is around them. So when we started a family empowerment center for adults, it was those kids' parents. Mm-hmm. No other parents are part of it, just the kids that are part of our program. When we started 2 businesses, a lawn care and landscape business, a screen printing business, it was to hire those kids. It wasn't to hire adults, parents, it was to hire those kids. So anything that we do, to the outsider might look like, man, they're doing kind of a lot of different things. It's like we can always trace it back to this is for this child. And so we're laser focused on that. We have great partners in the community that we partner with when it comes to mental health resources, counseling, addiction recovery programs, sort of housing support, all that kind of stuff. So we try to stay focused on doing what we do well and then working with others on those other things that we need support with our families.
Thanks for going deep around that, because that gives great context around the growth that you guys have experienced, but it's been intentional growth and it's been I think you said the next best step for the organization.
Yep.
What excites you about what's next here?
Yeah, we are, like I mentioned, we're in a capital campaign right now. We haven't gone public yet, but this is a semi-public if people hear this before. But we are building an early learning center for 100 infant to 5-year-olds. And the whole idea was we got to get working with our kids younger and supporting our mothers while they're trying to do their best, but working with them. And that's a real need. And so, we're going to have 6 or 8 week old babies that we're doing what we do now with 6th graders, loving them, meeting them where they're at, nurturing them, so providing support for them. And so it's a huge like undertaking. It's a whole different ballgame. There's licensing involved. It's basically starting a school, but we feel so compelled to do this. It's been a 4-year kind of vision that God laid on my heart. And so I'm excited about that.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm scared. I often talk about do it afraid, And so we say with our staff a lot, let's do it afraid. Let's not wait for the fear to pass before we take the next step. I'm afraid. Let's do it, And so it's been amazing along that journey of taking that next right step, of the ways that God has just kind of said, hey, it's the right step. Here's a little, I know this is a lot. I know that you're opening yourself up to more criticism, to more conflict, to more exposure, but it's the next right step. And so he's given those nuggets of thank you for reminding me of that. Let's keep going. So I'm super excited about that. That's going to complete the circle of care. It'll be year 18 where we talk about these 6 components, where we work with infants through early learning center. Then they move to kindergarten, 5th grade, city light kids. And then 6th grade through 12th grade, they are in iron sharpens iron. And then when they turn 15 or 16, they can get a job through greater impact. When they graduate out of iron sharpens iron, they can be an alumni. So we have 18 to 32-year-olds and alumni. And then when the parents can be a part of the Family Empowerment Center. So there's 6 main programs that we feel are completing this circle that's really a model of transformation. And it's a good reminder that things take a long time to build. And to build them well with a good foundation. It's taken us 18 years to build a model, which I think this model at some point could be repeatable in another city. Not necessarily saying we're going to do that, but who knows? But I think this model it's solid, and it's a 3-generation, it's a 0 to 30-year-old sort of focus, long game approach model that I think is what's really going to move the needle for kids really changing.
I know we're just a third of the way into this conversation. I do want to say that I'm very happy that we're having this conversation and that more people are learning about what you guys are doing, because the depth of the impact, it's one thing to have impact. It's another thing to say, we're going to go so deep, intentionally deep with each individual and each family, and wrap around these people to give them chances for success, greater opportunities for success. Wow. So I guess as we start to transition more towards just you as a leader, leading this organization with your wife and your 17 staff members and hundreds of volunteers, when you think about your journey, your path, the title of the podcast is A Path Less Traveled. Tell me what comes to mind when you think about that title and just your journey.
Yeah, I think to be a leader for the long haul, it takes tremendous stamina, grit, and courage. When I think about the title of your podcast, I actually kind of go to like the seasons of leadership. And especially as a founder, founders and entrepreneurs are a unique sort of person to get something off the ground. They often can't continue on as it grows. And so I hit this moment of year 10, I'm like, am I going to be able to keep this thing going? Because I'm definitely a starter.
Yeah.
But am I going to be able to keep this thing going? Am I going to be able to lead us where we need it to be led? And during kind of this exploration of this, God kind of gave me this vision of just like leadership as seasons. And it's really important to name the seasons, to grieve what was lost, and then make a shift for what's ahead. And so I actually do that quite often. Every 6 months, I take a step back. I'm like, am I in a new leadership season? Right now, I'm in Kory 4.0 is what I call it. But season 1 was just a lot of doing. Season 2 was a lot of designing and building things, core values and systems. Season 3 was delegating. And season 4, now what I'm in, is developing. So when I think of leadership for the long haul and that path that's less traveled, which is sticking with something for a long period of time, I instantly go to seasons. It's important to name it. You grieve what's lost. I don't get to interact with kids as much.
Yeah.
I walked into City Light Kids a couple of weeks ago, and a little boy named Ryland said, "Who are you?" I never thought there would be a day where the kids would not know who I was. I never thought there would be a day where I didn't know every kid's name and face. And I grieve that. And I still actually desire at some point to get back to that. Like, my goal is to get back to leading like a group of boys. But I think in this season, that's not the best impact I can have on transformation. So I grieve it, and then I move on. And so that's been really important for me as we continue to take this journey of leadership here at Transformation.
Let's unpack that a little bit more. seasons of leadership. And I've talked about it with leaders and haven't really labeled it the way that you have and the framework around that. How did you arrive at that way of thinking of this 5-year, this 10-year, this 50, whatever season it is? How have you framed this? Who helped you along the way? And how'd you get there? Because this is good to unpack.
Yeah, my leadership coach, who I highly recommend getting someone professionally to invest in you. The more you grow in your leadership and I guess level up in some ways and responsibility, the more you need voices and trusted voices. So my leadership coach was very instrumental in helping me name things and just naming emotions, naming what's been lost, grieving it so that you can make room for more, and then a lot around shifting too. And so what are the small little shifts that you need to make now? He would always say, what's got you here isn't going to get you there. And grief is real. Change happens. It's a normal part of life. And so he's been super instrumental. His name's Alan Briggs with Stay Forth Designs. And he's been huge the last 6 or 7 years in my life and kind of developing this framework and this kind of system now of taking a step back, writing things down of where I'm at and what I'm losing and what I need to do to grow for the next season. Yeah.
Those moments, some would say some of those moments feel like you're in the valley where it's challenging. You're grieving and it's hard. And actually a former Bethel alum I was texting with last week, Drew Lutz.
Yeah.
And it's where, in the valleys where the soil's the most fertile.
Yep.
And in great opportunity in the valley, if you view it and you look at it that way of, okay, this is what it is. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And use it as an opportunity for growth.
Yep.
As you hear the word Bethel, and we've talked about coach and leadership and mentors, I guess, how has athletics played a role in just your mindset? I know you were a former player at Bethel, great high school player. How has athletics impacted your way of thinking? And what have you seen kind of how that's infused into Transformation Ministries?
Yeah, I would say in some ways, athletics was the first time I realized I was a leader. So coaches would often say, you're a leader. And in fact, in high school, my coach would often get mad at me because I wasn't leading. He would say, Kory, lead. And I was like, what in the world does he mean? I didn't know what that meant. I was like, do I need to yell more? Do I need to shoot more? Do I need to score more? Do I need to help my team up more? And so I actually was like kind of disoriented in high school. Like, I know I'm a leader, but I don't even know what this means. And I would say because of that, I started to really explore what is a leader. And I started to learn through that a leader is someone who's humble, a leader is someone who's courageous, a leader is someone who's a servant, a leader is someone who's gritty, and a leader is someone who not only speaks the right thing, but does the right thing with their actions. And I learned a lot of that through Coach Lightfoot and through my teammates at Bethel and through different coaches that I've had. Athletics, man, I want all my kids to play sports, not because I want them to get a Division I scholarship or even have to play in college or even be the best player on their high school team. I just see there's so much value in a kid learning how to show up, how to push through hard stuff, how to experience failure and loss and keep getting up and going, how to be a good teammate, how to work through conflict. Sports, it kind of expedites all of that learning. It's like you're in a very competitive environment. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes on you. And I think you can learn it other ways, but man, you learn it fast in sports. And I'm super grateful for the way that it's taught me. Also, I've had to learn in leadership that not everyone played sports. So my way of leading at first was very much like locker room, not locker room in the sense of like crude or whatever. I know there's a bad connotation with that, but more of, I would say like fourth quarter overtime. Hey, I have 30 seconds in a timeout. I'm just going to tell you quickly what you're not doing well and what you need to do better. Boom. And that's kind of how I led early on. And people didn't receive it well. They're like, man, Kory doesn't like me. He's mad at me. And I'm like, oh, I'm just, so then I learned I need a little more time. I need to, be extra building them up early on to then, call them out and provide feedback later. So bottom line is sports have been extremely instrumental in my leadership. And I still probably pull from like my Coach Lightfoot moments of like where he pushed me beyond the limits. And a lot of it was around, he pushed me so hard to points that I thought I could never, ever go. And so when moments get tough here, I'm like, man, I did that my sophomore year in college with Coach Lightfoot. I'll be all right. Like, I can get there. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things of, at the time, it was so painful. Running for 3 hours till you can't hardly walk, or leading in a way that you didn't ever think you could lead, or finding something within you in a moment where you didn't think you had anything to give. Those are the moments I pull from here that I'm like, that was hard. This doesn't even feel as hard as that. I can do this, So very instrumental.
A little bit easier to do it afraid when you've gone through it like that, and you've seen you come through it, and gosh, you're prepared for the next Kory 4.0, 5.0. You're prepared for the next one because you've gone through that. Coach Lightfoot, what a special individual, and I hope he takes a listen to this, because he's been a mentor to you, a mentor to me, and many other people that either played for him or didn't play for him.
He will show up for you at a phone call in a heartbeat. That's how Coach is. He's unbelievable.
You mentioned a leadership coach, and I think there's a gap, and I've kind of been thinking about this lately, a gap between, somebody that's gone through sports up until they're 18 years old, and then they go off to college, they start their career, and then they get a little bit of life experience, and then they realize, or they get to an executive level and they think, I need to do what other peers are doing. I need to get a leadership coach. So you get to that point, and there's this 10-year gap of not receiving coaching for continuous improvement. It's the quote you said there, what got me here may not get me there.
Right.
So as somebody's thinking about hiring a coach, talking to a coach, what advice would you give to them of, you should do it? This episode is brought to you by Mosier Consulting, the powerhouse behind some of the most innovative technology solutions in Northern Indiana. For 30 years, Mosier has been delivering best-in-class solutions. If you're a leader in your company, Mosier is your partner in progress. With deep expertise in analytics, AI, managed services, Microsoft, IT savings, and strategic consulting, they don't just support your tech, they elevate your entire business. Mosier Consulting, technology experts, real results. Visit mosierit.com to learn more.
When you're interviewing coaches or trying to find coaches, there needs to be chemistry.
Yeah.
You need to be like, I enjoy being with them. When my phone rings or I get a text from them, I'm like, oh, good. My coach is calling or my coach is texting. So I think that's important, and it could take some time to find that. It's the same with a counselor. It can take time to find that chemistry. So don't force it. I think in the meantime, don't underestimate the power of a very intentional mentor. And we've talked a ton about that. But like seeking out a person with an agenda, a very clear agenda. I want to meet with you for 12 months. I want to meet with you monthly. I'm going to always come with a leading topic or question. I just want 60 minutes of your time, and I'm going to honor that. That has been huge for me. And so because of that, I almost didn't know if I needed a coach for a while. But then I realized, man, when I'm paying for someone and I'm kind of getting their undivided attention, and this is what they do, you just kind of realize there's a tremendous value in that. And so there's all different ranges of rates of what people charge for that. You got to find something that's comfortable for you. But it's hard with a coach to determine, is what I'm paying worth the value? But you have to just look at it in a whole different way of like kind of look and return on investment differently. And my coach has been crucial for me to just have a really safe place to share everything. And he will call me out. He'll challenge me. He will encourage me, and he'll grieve with me. And he's really good at being high level, big picture, and then getting really practical. How can you, Kory, as you're growing your staff, still invest in your staff when the numbers are growing? It's not 4 people anymore, but everyone wants access to you. How do you still invest in them? Let's talk about the power of a minute conversation. Here's how you can make them feel seen and loved in 1 minute. That's a very practical advice, and he's helped me with that.
Yeah.
So super, super helpful. I think with a mentor, sometimes you feel like, man, I'm throwing stuff on them. They have their life too. They have so much going on. You learn that they're carrying a heavy weight already. So I think with a coach, you just feel a little bit different freedom. Like, Yeah, this is what he's here for. So I'm giving him everything.
Good distinction there. I like that you said that, the coach and mentor, because sometimes that gets blended, and it can get blended.
Yeah.
But to be able to separate the two, to identify like what is the need that you have. You mentioned that every 6 months you take a break in the action, a 30-second timeout.
Yeah.
What does that look like as you're evaluating, where am I at? Where has God placed me? To walk me through, is it a day away from the office? Is it a couple day retreat? Talk through that.
Yep. It would be at least a day away, and it could be sometimes an overnighter, but it's just a process of asking kind of those questions that I talked about. Like, what is happening in this season? And I often go through 4 questions. How are we thriving? How are we struggling? What's missing? What's confusing? Questions I use all the time with myself and also with my staff. So I'll kind of go through those questions, and then I'll talk about, what am I grieving? And I'm a very optimistic person. I almost always feel happy and feel joyful. So I have to be very intentional about saying, okay, what am I grieving? What actually makes me feel sad? I'll often write in my journal, how am I feeling? And I'll try to sit with it. So that's been like a discipline I've had to learn, because it doesn't come natural to me. And then I'll look, and then I'll say, what shifts do I need to make as a leader to get us where we're going? And so, but I would say like that's every 6 months, but I also take a day away from the office every week. So Thursday is often my meetingless day. I don't really do meetings on that day. In my healthiest rhythms, I don't. So that's a really important discipline I put in place. I also take time in the morning before everyone wakes up with the Lord, a little journaling, a little reading, and just to kind of settle myself. Then I also take a weekly Sabbath, and so a day of rest and renewal where I'm not creating. I'm not doing things I have to do. I'm doing things that I want to do, I get to do, and I'm letting the Creator continue on with his work, knowing that I'm not important enough where I have to do something for 7 days a week and work. So those have been just little micro habits that have been really good. And then, each year I'll take some intentional time away to really celebrate and identify, where I'm at and then where we're going. Yeah. So
I honestly almost don't even know what question to ask next after what you just said there. I think that's incredible. Your approach on an annual basis of what that looks like. Just even I can step away for a week and let the Creator continue to create. I don't have to be in it and grind. Like life goes on. Yeah. Which for me personally, I'm an achiever. I'm a doer. I want to get things done. And I think you fall into that becoming a bit of not progress, but like part of the identity of that's what I do. That's what I bring to the table. Yeah. And it can be a detrimental place to be if that's kind of the only focus. So I appreciate you saying that.
I always say we're not as important as we think we are. And that's in a moment to remember that I'm not as important as I think I am. I can take a step back from doing things. And part of this I've learned from doing way too much and and grinding it. 6 a.m., just knocking stuff out every morning, 7 days a week for multiple months at a time. And I'm like, it doesn't lead me anywhere healthy. And as a leader, my best thing I can offer the team is health, clarity of thinking. There's a lot of big decisions to be made. If I can be clear on where we're heading, where we are, that's the best gift I can give my team. So what am I doing to be clear-minded, and taking rest and letting stuff fall a little bit sometimes, disappointing people. It helps me be clear-minded so I can have a bigger impact. So
what's some of the hardest parts of leading for you in different seasons, right? Kory 1.0, 2.0, 4.0. What have been some of the harder things, and how have you worked through that?
Yeah, I think leadership, Craig Rochelle says, if you're not bleeding, you're not leading. And it's Tom, I don't want to be bleeding. I want the title of leadership. I want the flexibility. I want the impact. But I would say leadership is really hard. It's lonely. It's tiresome. It's complicated. And so I think that's just the thing I want to preface with leadership as you continue to grow in influence or responsibility or platform. I think the hardest thing I would say is decision fatigue is a real thing. And the more your mind is tired, the less less sharp you'll be for decisions. And so I think there's lots I've learned around how do you keep your mind clear, and then how do you delegate decisions so that you don't even have to worry about some of those things. When do you make decisions versus when do you not make decisions? Even as simple as like what I wear. I wear a solid t-shirt with a jacket over it almost every day. Like I don't want to have to be, oh, in my closet. What am I wearing today? Like that's like a little thing that I actually learned from Obama. Obama wore like the same suit every day. And I'm like, he just wanted to keep his mind fresh and sharp. And so some of those things I try to do so that my mind can be as clear as possible for the most important decisions. And decisions are what guide us into where we're trying to go. So when I'm not knowing where we're going and I'm unclear, I'm not a very good leader here. When I'm irritable and frustrated, and I'm not a good decision maker here. And so that has been one of the hardest things to protect and learn in regards to like the decisions that have to be made as a leader.
Well, I've got two final questions for you as we start to wrap this up. You've accomplished a lot, and I know you'll say it's not me, it's the team, and it's what God has done in my life and through me. But there's been a lot of accomplishments that you've been a part of and have led. What's one of the things you're most proud of as you look back on your life?
Yeah, I would say two things come to mind. One would be just seeing lives transformed, seeing people that I've invested in some way, shape, or form that is a better human because of it. That's something I'm super proud of. I would also say some of the best advice ministry leaders gave me when I got into ministry was your first ministry is always your family. Don't sacrifice your family for the sake of the call of God. And I would say I haven't done that. 17 years, I have kept my family as my main ministry. I have 4 kids, 13, 9, 6, and 4. I don't think they'll look back and say, my dad wasn't involved in my life. Or I saw my dad invest in others, but he never really invested in me. Like the stuff that I'm doing here, I'm doing with them. We have family values. We do highs and lows. We talk about how we're thriving, how we're struggling. I do check-ins with them, which we call dates, which are weekly, one kid each week. We do dinner on the table. We say no to things. We have boundaries. We Sabbath together. We play together. So I think I'm most proud about that. I'm still in the middle of it, and I could get loose with it and all of a sudden start to forget my main call. I always say I'm so replaceable here at Transformation, but I just am not replaceable as a father in the same way. If something ever happens to me, I know God will bring the right men into the lives of my kid. I trust him in that way, but I'm here on earth now. I can do that. I'm called to do this role the best. So I'm very proud of that. That has been a focus of mine. And I believe my wife would say that I haven't sacrificed that. I think the older my kids get, the more they need, and the more things I've grown at Transformation, I would say I'm getting more comfortable disappointing people outside of my family. And just knowing that I can't be all things to all people. I can't give people the time they might want. And that's okay. And part of leading is being misunderstood. Part of following Jesus is being misunderstood. And so my core conviction in life is for people to take steps towards Jesus, to find their purpose in following him. And that's what I'm doing with my kids. How can I help my kids be discipled to Jesus, mentor them to Jesus, help them take steps to Jesus? So that's what I'm most proud of.
Love that answer. You've been kind to a lot of people. You've been a part of very kind things. I mean, this building here in South Bend, it's a kind gift to the community. A lot of kindness. You serve. You've thought about being a missionary. Do a lot of kind things. What's one of the kindest things somebody's done for you as you think about that question? I mean, what comes to mind there?
Yeah, I would say, especially as I get older and people start wanting me to meet with them, to mentor them, or to give them advice on things, I realize now in the shoes that I'm in, I'm like, man, I have so much going on. I have so much with my family. My kids are in extracurriculars. My wife needs me. My leaders need me. Nothing ever is just smooth when you have 17 staff members. There's always life going on.
Yeah.
Ministry is growing. The demands are higher than ever. And then someone's asking me to give them 60 minutes to just invest in them. The kindest thing anyone's ever done to me is done that for me when I was 20 years old, 25 and 30. I didn't know it at the time, but when I'm calling these kind of high profile, high impact, high capacity leaders to meet with me, they did it graciously. And they just acted like I was the most important person to them. Meanwhile, I'm knowing like things are falling apart probably at their business. Things are tough at home. They got so much going on. And the kindest thing is 60 minutes. I'm locked into you. I'm not pulling my phone out, taking calls, and I'm just pouring into you. That is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me, is give me their time when they didn't really have time.
Well, close us up here. Give us just your final thoughts about, it could be things that are happening here at Transformation Ministries. It could be about leadership. It could be about advice to younger people. I mean, anything that you want to kind of close on. The floor is yours. Go ahead and wrap us up.
Yeah, I would say I talked earlier about just this idea of taking the next right step. It's really, I think it's good to have vision. It's good to look ahead. It's good to forecast what's coming, but just do the next right thing. Then take the next right step. What can you do today to move you there? And don't get too caught up in the bigness of what you're trying to do. I always say you can do less in a year than you think you can. You can do more in 10 years than you think you can. And so that's what I would tell younger leaders. That's what I still tell myself, is take the next right step. You're going to accomplish more in a longer period of time than you think you can. And so plan for the long game. Another thing I would say, and this is kind of comes from my faith, is like success is not as much about results. I'm achievement oriented too. I'm very competitive, Craig. So there's some similarities there, but God has always reminded me of just be faithful and obedient each day. And if you can ask yourself the question, like, have I been faithful and obedient before I go to bed? And I can answer it yes. I'm like, I've been successful today. Because when you're working with people's lives and stuff too, like it is so hard sometimes to measure success. We're complicated people. And what I want people to be doing is not always happening. And so that's what I would say has been crucial for me. I've been doing that for now probably 15 years, is have I been faithful and obedient today and taking the next right step? Yes. I shared boldly there. I listened well there. I picked this kid up from school and took him home. I showed up to this event. I had the courageous conversation. I was kind, but I was honest to a staff member. I let this person go. I hired this person. All of those things, if I can say I'm being faithful and obedient, it's been successful.
You're taking the next best step for you. And it's been very clear in this conversation for you. And I think about, comparison is the thief of all joy. You're running your race. Mm-hmm. You are running the race set forth for you, for Kory Lantz. That's right. And you've blocked out the noise. You've identified, and you spend time thinking about what's the race that I'm in right now? Yeah. How long is it for me, not for the next person? Yeah. So as I think about just closing this thing up, that's my takeaway in this conversation, is you're running your race very well. Yeah, you're intentional about it. Yeah. And it's clear that this is the plan for you. And you're so focused on leaning into it that it's no surprise the transformation that's happening here. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I appreciate this conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate what you're doing, man. I appreciate the podcast. You're much more than this podcast. And it's been an honor to sit with you for 30 minutes and talk. And we could do this for hours. I feel like we're now friends. So I appreciate that.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Path Less Traveled podcast with the founder and executive director of Transformation Ministries, Kory Lantz. Until next week, have a great day.